This screencast is going to walk you through the interactive lecture notes I put on for the pairs trade in our portfolio theory course. Before we get into how to use the interactive lecture notes, I'll let you know that the code for all of this is hosted on GitHub. So clicking here, you can see this is where I have all the code for all the text and all the applications you see in any of these interactive lecture notes. So for instance, this is the code behind what we're going to go over today. So in other words, this is all the R code that powers the applications and also all the text. So if you ever want to, you're excited about the topic and you want to add to these lecture notes, add functionality, add to the text, feel free to do so. You go through over here and fork the repository. First, you need a GitHub account and learn a little bit about Git, which is, a couple hours at the maximum. And then you can go over here, fork the repository, make your changes, issue a pull request to me, and I'd be happy to pull your changes into the repository here. And then, if you do make changes to it, you will automatically be updated in here. These are the GitHub contributors, so you'd automatically show up here. So any additions you make, you get credit for, and you can always link to the additions you make and link to here to show that you added to it. Good. So back to the actual lecture notes. I put the video lecture I did here. I'll also put a video, the screencast, I'll add here, so the screencast will show up here once this is done. So if you want to remind yourself of the theoretical underpinnings of the pairs trade in a lecture form, you can always just go here and watch pieces of the video.
That's what we're doing.
Good. Now getting down to the interactive apps. What we have here again in the pairs trade is we have an estimation period and a trading period. And what this app is going to allow you to do is change, for any pair, see how they look in the estimation period and see how they would look in a trading period. So for instance, what you can do here is you can go in and start changing the stock. So we have a fairly good pair, JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs. But we'll go ahead and change this to BP and ExxonMobil, another theoretically fairly decent pair. And this is going to go ahead and update. And what we want to see in this chart to see if it's a good pair is we want it to split apart here and then cross, split apart and cross. So, in this area here, the pair looks good. Note you can choose sub-intervals of this by just going right here. And now we have a sub-interval from September to the end of October. And you can see this is a good pair over this period at least. Double click and we'll get back to the full period. Over here, it's spreading apart and may not, what I'd like to see is this collapse again. For it to be a good pair. Of course, the real important thing here, and the reason why these interactive lecture notes are really useful is you need to look at different pairs, you need to look at different estimation periods to get a feel of how stable the relationship between a pair is, and to get a feel for how sensitive, the pairs trade is to the pair and the time interval that you choose. So what you can also do here is go and start saying, well, I'll look at how would this pair have done from May until the end of September. And it'll go here and it'll update. And this doesn't look great. So you can go ahead and choose whatever pair you want. I can go back to JP Morgan, over this time interval. In Goldman Sachs. Of course, if I have JP Morgan and ExxonMobil, this is, theoretically this pair doesn't make sense. And what you can see immediately, these are the normalized prices, I should mention. What this has done is it's gone and pulled the prices, converted them into returns, calculated cumulative returns, and plotted them. Those cumulative returns are what we term normalized prices. So, this plot of the normalized prices really shows that this is not a good pair. But pulling Goldman Sachs back in here, you can see, okay, this is how they looked over this time period. What this also does is shows you the average square deviation and the standard deviation of the square deviations. These are the two parameters that we estimate over the estimation period, which we then use to trade over the trading period. So these will also tell you, remember, we want something with a small average square deviation. So immediately you can look at these and compare them to the other the pairs that you've looked at and try to choose pairs with small average square deviations. Now, again, just a brief to mention on the normalized prices, what this means is if this is 0 and this is, over the month this has gone up to 0.05, the difference between the price here is the return over that period. So the return is approximately 5%. So that's how you read this axis. Now, what this automatically does is at the end of this estimation period, it immediately starts the trading period down here. So what it will do here is it'll immediately start the trading period then, and it'll take these average square deviation and the standard deviation square deviations, and it'll go in and use this as your in the actual decision to trade. So here is where the actual decision to trade is made. So let me just refresh this because I have it default on a period. The default period has a couple trades. So in other words, this is our default estimation period of 9/1/2015 to the end of 2015 for JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs. It feeds those average square deviation and standard deviation into our trading period. Note that what you see here is this is December 2015, end of December 2015. This starts at January 1st, right? So the trading period starts at the end of the estimation period. They don't overlap. So what this will automatically do is decide, show you when you would enter a trade and when you would close a trade, and calculate the profit over that time interval. And what you can do is change your threshold. So what this is saying is I enter into a trade when the average square deviation is where the square deviation is 2 standard deviations wide, and I close a trade when the square deviation is 0.5 standard deviations wide. And again, these are dictated by the standard deviation that we estimated here and the square average that we estimated here. So now the idea of the pairs trade is there's no theoretical way for me to tell you that using a threshold of 2 standard deviations is correct and using a threshold of 2.1 standard deviations is incorrect. So what this is going to allow you to do is change your thresholds and see how it changes your profit. This doesn't mean that if you find the optimal thresholds here, they'll be the optimal thresholds over the later period. Quite the contrary, they may not be. However, what this is going to allow you to do is just get an idea of how changing the thresholds will change your trades and how it will change your profit. So in other words, what you could do here is say, all right, well, let's enter when they're 3 standard deviations wide. This actually wouldn't change it because we have a big jump from 0.5 standard deviations up to 3. If I increased it, you'd see, well, we wouldn't enter into any trades and zero profit. So the idea here is, well, at least over this interval, 3.5 is too wide. Dropping this back down to 2, you see, okay, we enter a trade here, enter, close, 8.83. Let's say we'll only close here. Then you see, well, we're not getting out of it. We're waiting too long, at least, again, over this time interval to get out of the trade. So we enter a trade here and we just hold on to it. And we actually haven't closed it at this point. What this does is calculates the profit as if we close it, at the last time period. So what you can do is you can change these thresholds and see how it will affect. Here again we enter in really soon. See how it will affect your trades. Again, 1 is trade on, 0 is no trade. So in other words, what this means is here we closed a trade, here we opened a trade, and see how it affects your profit. And again, make sure you go through, change your estimation period up here so that your trading period changes, and then change your thresholds. And this should give you a really good idea of the choices that you have to make when implementing the pairs trade in terms of what type of estimation period to use, how long of an estimation period to use, and what sort of thresholds to use. Of course, this is using daily data. In real life, you also have the choice of should I try to do this on daily, intraday data, minute by minute data, so forth. And what this does here is plots your normalized prices over the trading period. So you can see, again, what this red line is the number of standard deviations. Again, our trading rule in the pairs trade is dictated on the number of standard deviations wide. So this is plotting the number of standard deviations, and then in blue, whether you have a trade on or off. And this is just plotting the normalized prices over the trading period. So, and of course, again, you can zoom in on any of these and so forth. Make use of these interactive lecture notes. Absolutely, you can use these to calculate profit over different trading intervals, and definitely have fun with it. As always, send along questions that you have. I'm happy